Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm Jeja Flazanes, your empowerment strategist and producer. Thank you for downloading today's episode. Today, we're going to talk about quantum energy healing with Joshua Bloom. Before I tell you about Joshua, I just want to give a shout out to everybody who applied for the Rewiring Your Core Wound Patterns beta program that I'm doing right now. In fact, we start our first group meeting on Saturday. And I was very pleased with the amount of applicants. That lets me know that you guys are ready for this kind of work and that you understand the kind of work that we're doing and putting out into the world. I got this little hit or inspiration just to announce one more time because, gosh, I would really hate if somebody heard this late and thought, man, I would have done that. We are full, but I would be willing to accept one more person into the group if we start on Saturday. So again, it's very short notice. You'd have to be signed up and registered before Saturday. But it's called Rewiring Your Core Wound Patterns. And it's a beta program. It's 3 months. It's less than what it will be when I do it again, which may be September. Can't be sure. But if you're interested, let's jump on a call quickly, jejaflazanes.com/rewire. Send me an application. And if not, that's cool. We are full and ready to go. And I'm just super pleased with where everybody is and where you're growing to and what you're ready for. I think that's the point of me and the podcast, is wanting to attract a community who wants to keep doing this work to make ourselves better and better. It's more about releasing all the patterns, right? It's not necessarily that you're broken. Of course you're not. You are perfect the way that you are. But we have resistance. We have patterns. We have core wounds that get in the way. And if we don't know what they are, we don't really know how to address that. So again, if there's anyone out there who hasn't heard or didn't know that I'm doing this program, Rewiring Your Core Wound Patterns, I will open one more space up, jejaflazanes.com/rewire. So Joshua Bloom has developed his own modality called quantum energy transformation that invites extraordinary empaths and intuitives to go inside themselves to access the quantum field. Joshua has created a powerful library of additional programs, a way of being called Being Quantum, a transformation process called Age Clearing, a Reiki modality named Being Reiki, and an allergy elimination process called Quantum Allergy Release. Joshua is a trusted authority on the application of quantum transformation, the host of Emotionally Free TV, and has been featured internationally on both radio shows, podcasts, and telesummits. To learn more about Joshua, you can go to quantumenergycenter.tv and check the show notes for any other links that we talk about on today's show. Enjoy today's show. Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm Jeja Flazanes, and if you're finding us on YouTube, know that this is my show, and what that means is I'm going to be talking today. So if you're here looking for Joshua, where can they find more of just you in case they don't like me?
Well, they can go to beingquantum.com. That's beingquantum.com.
Awesome. And if you're on the podcast, by now, you know, we did a video. So come on over to jejaflazanes.tv to meet Joshua. All right. So today we're going to talk about quantum energy healing and discovering the science of quantum manifestation and everything quantum. So let's just start there. Let's start with, why don't you give us a little bit of your background in how you even got here? And then we can dive a little bit more into what quantum means and how you explain it and why we want to know about it.
Well, I've had a journey, to say the least. You know, I think quantum found me more than I found it. You know, many years ago, I fell into some really major anxiety. When I say major anxiety, I don't mean like, oh, I felt a little fearful. I mean like it was going to kill me kind of feeling. And in that experience of despair, of not knowing what to do next, of not having any tools to resolve it, and not really knowing where to go, I ended up learning 20 different healing modalities, learning how to help myself through this struggling and difficult time. And I landed in a place where I am today, where I have released so many issues that I was dealing with, such as the anxiety, the attention deficit disorder, the dyslexia, migraine headaches. All of these things were plaguing me through my life, and they have shifted and changed, and now it's totally different. But it was definitely a 10-year journey to get to where I am now. And now where I am is great. And I'm living from a very different perspective, but it wasn't always that way.
All right. Well, obviously, let's talk about what the perspective was and what the perspective is now.
Yeah. So many years ago, I worked for a hypnosis center, and actually went there for help. And then I started to help them because I realized they couldn't help me. And when I helped them, I, work with clients, and I started to get these really amazing results. And it was really powerful for me to see that, because I would help somebody who has anxiety, they would lose their anxiety, and I would go home with mine. And so I had to learn not only how to help them, but how could I use that as an understanding for how to help myself. And then many years later, I actually transformed my anxiety, transformed myself to become confident and unstoppable. And I teach other people to do the same now.
So what's the perspective though? So if you were working in the hypnosis center and you were helping them and they were getting better, and I'm guessing, if I remember correctly, are you Pisces, right?
No, I'm a Scorpio.
No, you're a Scorpio, right? Sorry, you're water sign. Okay. So the only reason why I bring that up, obviously, because water is a conductor for energy and for transformation. And especially as a Scorpio, there's a sort of the idea of the rebirthing and the kind of always in transformation. But, I'm guessing that intuitively, because you couldn't put a word to it or a name to it, you just were doing things. And so intuitively you were helping people and kind of channeling in a way and not really knowing what you were doing until you could see the result on them versus like what was going on with you. And then you had to sort of look at the difference. So if you had to boil down the perspective of what you believed before that changed, was it that these healing, that you didn't have the power to change yourself, or that you didn't know how to do it? And then now through working with people, you did, and you could sort of see what it might be or how it's different?
Well, I think the perspective was that I had learned so many different ways for transformation, and none of them really worked well enough. So I put them together into a quantum perspective, a perspective where we move energy at the cellular level of the body to create change, but brought in the other modalities like neurolinguistic programming and hypnosis and transformation and all different types of healing and transformation together. And by bringing them all in and taking only those things that really would benefit someone, it really changed how things happened. So instead of doing it from a neurolinguistic programming point of view or a hypnosis point of view, we stuck it into a quantum model. In a quantum model, everything behaves differently. You can go into growth in a quantum model and be in a place where Dr. Bruce Lipton says that you are in a place where all the cells are working perfectly and everything is doing well. And if it's not, that the body knows exactly how to do it intuitively, because the body has its own intelligence that allows the movement of energy to happen inside. And then as in a sense, your body's a bioprocessor. And as your body processes the energy and information, you then shift whatever that problem is. So I was able to utilize things from many modalities and put it into a quantum model. So the whole thing is in the quantum field, so to speak. And from that perspective, I was able to realize that healing was possible, not only for other people, but actually for myself. I was my hardest client.
We always are. And so when we get it for us, we're like, okay, if I can do this now, I can teach you how to do it.
Exactly.
But let's define quantum though. So what is quantum?
Well, quantum is the experience of moving energy at the cellular level of the body. Actually, all of the information that we've ever experienced in our life, so anything that you've ever done, heard, felt, experienced, is stored as packets of energy in the cellular structure of the body. And as that information is there, some of that information is useful. You hold a fork, you don't have to remember how to hold a fork. It's there for you when you need it. It's not a problem. It's really good. When we think about it now, if you think about how do I hold a fork, you probably don't even know until you pick up that fork, because it's already a habit. It's already ingrained in you. You know exactly how to do that. Same thing with driving. You don't know how to drive. You just get in the car and drive because it's already a habit. It's already within you. But there are a lot of things that happened when you were 3 years old, 5 years old, 10 years old, even last year, that have been a problem, that have been stored in the cellular structure of your body that aren't serving you. The stories, the problems, the issues that you can't even find the popcorn trail to, but know you feel it when it triggers. That's what I help people release and transform so that they no longer have to be plagued by the past experiences and can create a new possibility to live their life with freedom and joy.
So paint the picture of the difference of general energy healing, because what it sounds like is that from the perspective that you're looking at, and I'm on board, I understand that subconsciously we hold a lot of energy in our body. We also have neural pathways in our brain that sometimes we're not even aware of. So we don't need to necessarily identify it in order to change it. We just need to change it. So what is the difference between the quantum work that you do and, let's say, Reiki?
Okay. That's a good question, because Reiki is about providing universal life force energy from the practitioner to the client. And it's also about hand positions and symbols and channeling energy to the body to create a change. So in a sense, there's one big difference, because in quantum energy transformation, we look at it as everything is already within you. You don't need someone to give you something outside of you to create that. You can create your own life force energy, which we all do. And we can utilize our own life force energy. And I teach people exactly how to do that. So not that Reiki is right or wrong or good or bad, but it's different than Reiki, because Reiki is not necessarily quantum. It doesn't necessarily move energy at the cellular level of the body. Reiki provides energy healing, but in my experience, it's taken such a long time. I'm a Reiki master in 2 different lineages and finally created my own Reiki modality called Being Reiki, because it was just too slow for me. It was just, I had a friend of mine, she was a Reiki master, and she loved giving sessions. She liked that it was slow because she liked doing the hand positions and using the symbols and all that. That made her feel great. For me, it was like, wow, if I wanted to become a massage therapist, I would have done that. So I don't want to go and spend all this time. So in my Reiki modality, being Reiki, I have the ability to utilize life force energy for the client, using their own life force energy for the client, and allowing them to create the same type of change that you would do in about an hour and a half in about 30 seconds to 5 minutes, doing what I call Being Reiki. So we're not giving them energy because we don't need to give them energy. We're teaching them how to generate their own energy to create that change in my version.
Okay. Now, obviously, without experiencing it or watching you do it, we're painting pictures to kind of gather an idea. And one of the things that we had talked about before we pressed go here today was sort of how to help people get ready, or how can we help ourselves more quickly either get grounded, get aligned, tap into our own energy field in a different way. And I know you talked about that everyone's path is going to be different because it's whatever sort of resonates with you, which is great. But can you give us some examples of, for those that are listening right now or watching, if they sort of want to experience an energy shift in their body, utilizing their own energy field, what would you tell them to do?
Well, first of all, we have to realize, where are we always? We are always, more than likely, in our head. And we have the perspective of always being in our head because we've been rewarded as children for going to school and doing all the good things that we do in school. And when we got facts right, we got rewarded. And so we got this idea that if I'm in my head more often, then that's a good thing. So anything that has to do with energy in the body, we've suppressed all that. And now we're like walking heads. That's what we become, unfortunately. So we have to retrain ourselves to not be walking heads and to have what I call whole body thinking. So your intellect is not the only kind of thinking that's available to you. You have body thinking, you have intuition, you have information coming to you from many places. So being in your body, which is different than just being grounded. Being grounded is like when you do yoga. Being in your body is actually when your higher self comes into your body. And when it does, it connects with you. And then you're getting into your beingness. This is the only way to truly be present. So grounding is excellent, but we want to go deeper and get into that perspective of beingness. Beingness comes from a place of actual being where your higher self is in your body and it's feeding you all this good energy rather than being up there because your energy frequency is too low for it to want to be inside. Does that make sense? So if we bring our higher self in, that's one of the things that we can do. But before we do that, let me show you how we get into what we call being quantum. Being quantum is very, very simple, and yet the results are very profound. The first thing we're going to do is put our awareness at the base of our spine. So the base of our spine is at the tailbone. It's very simple. It doesn't have to be exact. You just basically think about your butt. Okay, that's all you're doing. So you just put your attention there. If you like, you could put your hand there, and you could just think about where your hand is. And when you put your attention right at the base of the spine, you'll start noticing that you instantly start to ground. This is not being in your body. This is being grounded, but it's the invitation that gets us to get to the second part of this. So the access point to the quantum field is actually at the tailbone. What that means is when you connect with the root chakra, you can enter into the quantum field as long as you're in your body. So that's the next thing we're going to do. We're going to bring our higher self into our body. So you basically reach up and imagine that you're grabbing the feet of your higher self, and your higher self comes into the top of your head, and it goes all the way down your body. You just bring your higher self down. And breathing is good. And you just allow your higher self just to slide down, just to slide in, keeping that attention at the base of the spine while you do this, and just allow it to go in. It only takes a minute, but it's very, very powerful. And when you're fully in your body, your higher self will be all the way down to your feet so that it fills all of you. And when you do that, then you become even more grounded. We call that being in the body. And the next thing we do is we give ourselves more space. In the quantum field, space is really key. When you have more space, you can thin out emotions so they're not so intense, and you can create change and move energy, but you need space for things to move, right? So space is really key. So we're going to open up our energy by pushing open our auric field in front of us and in back of us and onto both sides. We're just going to open up our auric field really, really big. Now, some people may have trouble with that because it's like, what is Joshua doing? He's just going like this. What does that mean? So here's a really good tip to make it easier. You're going to put your awareness at the base of your spine and on all four walls of the room you're in. And when you do that, take a moment just to do that real quick. You'll notice that your auric field automatically opens up to the room. And now your aura is at least as big as the room is in just a few moments of doing that. And now we're in what we call being quantum. Your voice should relax and sound a little bit lower. Your energy should perk up a little bit because your frequency raised, and you should be even more grounded because when you open up your auric field, it actually grounds you. Notice that when you open something, it goes down, so it grounds you more.
I think another word that I would offer to anyone listening who's used to me and my sort of terminology would be expansion. Like you're expanding your field, and you're opening up that perspective to allow in more. And then of course that grounding, connecting to you and bringing it's funny because one of the healers that we've worked with a lot on the show and in many of my events, she clears inherited emotional DNA, but she does something similar, not the same. It's in terms of like opening, there's a whole process. And one of them is to sort of knock on the head, pull up the hair, like invite the spirit back down to the body. I like that yours was more visual of pulling from the feet, like into matching that higher shadow side, if you will, not shadow side, but the silhouette, if you will, of a person, right? And then just sort of matching that with your body on the way down. And then we did do an energy clearing of opening the auric field in all directions. Anyway, so this is not new for me. Some of it's I like that your change of it and sort of the visual that I said, I feel that feels more connective. And I love the putting your awareness on the four walls of the room because that is instantaneous. If you feel goofy, moving your hands out, like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing, like, and you know, like we talked about before we started recording, it really is individualized. It doesn't really matter how you get there. It's that you get there. And here are some ways that might, you know, sometimes it's a little shift in a interpretation to allow yourself to do it, allow yourself to open to it. And so whether it be that you push your hands out and your field gets wider, or you think about the four walls and you expand out to that, you know, whatever works. These are a couple different things to get you there. So I think that that's great. But I wanted to let people know that we've done a lot. We've done some of this at some of the events in the past. I've now sort of taken over doing it when I'm with people, just to kind of get us centered, grounded, and to open up to infinite intelligence and our higher selves that most of us are connected. I am right with you on 100%. We are in our heads too much. The beauty about a podcast is that there's an intimate space that we're holding right now. We're in someone's ear if they're listening, and they feel a vibrational connection because they can't see anything. So their eyes and their judgment are not a part of this. They're not being entertained. So, you know, what I love about podcasting from the audio perspective is that they feel us, and they feel what you're doing more first, because they're not watching you. So for anyone that went through that and know that Joshua did a whole hand thing, if you're going to come back and watch the video to see the hand thing and all the hands that were moving, right, then definitely come watch the video so you can get that. Because I think that's an important part, especially if the other suggestions don't resonate or don't produce the same effect. Come watch it, because anytime I think you add that bodily movement to that intention, it does create another shift, because we're such physical beings that that does stimulate like a change in some people. So that's great. Okay. Now from here, because you work with people one-on-one, right? Or you teach people how to do, but for the people so we're now in this space, we've now opened our auric field. We are now in our bodies more, and we aren't just in our head. Now what?
Well, the important thing is getting out of your head and getting into your body, like we just talked about. But it's important to also understand that we're getting into a more kinesthetic experience. So it might be a little bit visual to do that, which is nice because a lot of people are visual, and that's very helpful. But when you get good at this, you go more into the kinesthetic. So you're really feeling the higher self coming in, less than seeing the higher self, because then you're direct to the kinesthetic information. The kinesthetic sense is the oldest sense we have. Think about being in the womb, and that was the original sense we had. We couldn't see, we could only feel. So it's the original sense that we had. And that's so important, because we can use our kinesthetic sense to start moving energy, which you said, what's the next step? It's moving energy. So we can move energy with our breath, with our intention, with our openness. You can open more to allow energy to move. A lot of times, the body's intelligence will move the energy. You don't have to do very much at all, except for be in your body. Other times, you need to be more invitational. You need to say, oh, I could feel something in my stomach. This feels like really awful, and I would like to move that. I know that a client of mine had some family issues, and they were really, really bothering her stomach quite a bit. And so I invited her to invite the energy to move differently. Did it want to go up, or did it want to go down, or did it want to go to the left or the right, or diagonal, or a different direction, or maybe it just wanted to go straight out. And so we allowed the energy to move the way it wants to move, using the intelligence of the body. And when that happens, the energy moved and created a shift. And in that shift, she became less traumatized by the situation and more happy about who she is in relation to what was going on. So everything in perspective changed, but not through a conversation like we're having now, but through an energy conversation where the energy shifted and she became more of who she was ready to become next after that issue.
It's a funny thing. No, it's not funny. It's an interesting thing to talk about energy, because talking about it isn't doing it, right? Just like talking about emotions and your awareness of it isn't about changing how you process them, or what keeps flashing to me. So for those of you that I feel like a large part of my audience is going to have no problem with this conversation, meaning like they're going to get it, they're going to feel it, they're going to clink in it, they're going to resonate. Then there's going to be another half of the audience that is like, okay, it sounds really airy-fairy. I kind of understand, but I really don't understand. And so what I'd invite you to do, just to make this more real, for anyone who is still sort of skeptical or is doubting or is like, I don't understand how this works, because I'm pretty scientific. So let me bring in another like aspect of how we can interpret this differently. As a trainer, one of the things that I was really excellent at, because, and why I stayed a personal trainer for so long, because I don't know anyone that does this, is using the brain, using our body, connecting with our body in such a way. Most people don't exercise and they're not connected. They're not connected. They move weight around, they throw their limbs around. There's no control. And I would teach people how to activate a muscle without moving it. So like, I want you to contract your quad without moving your leg. Right. And sometimes they'd be like, I have no idea how to do that. And I would take my fingers, and I would touch a part of their body. And I'm like, I'm like, are you aware of that? Because the brain goes exactly to that touch point right. We are so aware of that. So that kinesthetic that you're talking about is that all of a sudden now my brain is 100% lit up by where my finger is without even trying. And like you said, the womb, and it's like, it goes back to, it's touch and feeling things physically. We're so wired to have that, and to have that be a part of our awareness. So when we're thinking about, sort of switching over to this, to like energy and feeling that energy, we first have to be in our body to do that. But I want you to, use that example of just, of feeling the muscle, feeling the muscles, feeling the body, feeling the energy, like you said, of if somebody has stomach issues. Like I had to take some notes while you were writing, because I just had an idea for a client, thank you very much, who I'm like, okay, first, if we expanded those 4 walls, if we expanded that energy, because so many of us are walking around, especially any of you that deal with chronic pain or cancer, your energy field is so small because you're so focused on this one thing that the intelligence of the body can't do what it's supposed to do, because the focal point is dragging you into and cutting off the access to the parts of you that can help move this energy, right? So just taking like a simple like touch point, just to understand that where your awareness goes without you thinking about it. We have to talk about it to explain it. For me, when I was learning science of the body, I never thought I was good at science, because it was all like ethereal. Like I couldn't see any of it. And then I became a trainer, and all of a sudden biomechanics became physical. It became mechanical. I could see how it worked together, which made me I could memorize it. I could see it. I could see how it worked. It all of a sudden came to life versus this sort of ethereal thing that we're talking about. So just to say, those of you that are somewhere on the like, okay, I'm listening and I'm not really sure I'm getting it. I want you just to take that touch point of your fingers, or of your awareness on your body, just to feel how you click in so quickly when you're grounded, when you're aware, and what happens to your brain. That's all. Just wanted to like bridge that gap in case there is any. If there wasn't any, then cool. So, all right. So we're talking about moving energy, having our body move our energy to help with releasing what we need to. And I know that we've already gone through many different things that you guys can do on your own in terms of, being aware of the base of your spine and your root chakra. And you said breathing will move energy. What else did you say would move energy?
Move your intention.
Your intention of visualizing the energy moving, or your intention of sort of just allowing in the energy and then letting it take care of itself.
So there's lots of ways to have intention. And in my modality, I teach people that simply having an intention to shift the issue is enough intention. You don't need to know how, right? The how will come. You don't need to know how. That's very powerful. But you can use your intention to move energy by inviting that energy, or you can use the intention to bring up the issue more so that it can come up and come out. So there's lots of ways that you can use intention, but intention is so key. But then, even your hands can move energy. So you can move energy with your hands. You can move energy with your, I like to say intention, not mind, because if we're in our head telling ourselves, move this here and move this there, we're not in the right place. So it's really about feeling and sensing it kinesthetically, and then allowing that energy to move. And you'll feel it gurgling. You'll feel it moving. You'll actually feel the energy going from one place to another. And when you follow it and be curious about it and discover what it's doing, it starts to unravel the problem inside of you.
Well, what I love about just this conversation right now and what we've covered so far, it's that co-creation piece with the body and with your higher self versus the decision that you know better. And and that's, the infinite wisdom of being in alignment and allowing versus driving and deciding, because we are too often, this is a diagnosis. I was dealing with a client last week who she had all of her, she's like all these different doctors and nobody could agree on what to do. And I wanted to say to her, well, what do you want to do? What do you feel is best? But she's so disconnected from that belief system. And I'm like, because I'm in the same place where I'm like, I don't trust any of these doctors because I don't agree with any of you about any of this. And so far, my intuition always guides me in the right direction. I say no all the time. I self-direct all the time. And I'm not, but I also have the data and the information of knowing where to pick from, or at least allowing my body to tell me to lean into and to feel into. So I do love that there is a component here for what everyone has heard on the show many times about allowing, about the infinite wisdom that we already have access to, about the non-physical energetic wisdom and healing we already have access to. And we're all so cut off because we delegate to other people to tell us what's wrong with us and then to what to do about it. And we don't go in within. And so even just this practice of being able to go within is where nobody knows what's right for you except you. But you learning how to tap into that is where most people don't know. They don't know how to tap into that. They're like, well, I don't know how to get there. So I love this for that reason too, to self-empower somebody to say, I'm going to click in, I'm going to get aligned, I'm going to tap in, I'm going to expand my awareness in my auric field. I'm going to be in my body. I'm going to feel my body, and I'm going to let my body tell me what to do. And I'm not going to try to override it with my brain. So I think that in itself, by itself, has so much wisdom and so much possibility for transformation in ways that people are now so disconnected from, that I think there's a lot of value there. So I want to talk about those people who are like, okay, but I want to work with you and I want you to help me because maybe I don't want to learn this on my own, or maybe I don't have time because I have cancer and I'm 4th stage and what do we do about that? So how do you work and where can they find you?
Well, you can go to beingquantum.com, or you can email me at help@beingquantum.com. And that's where you'd find me. Real easy. One thing I wanted to say, though, that's really powerful to understand is we have a whole experience called the core awakening that allows the intelligence of the body to just do what it does. It activates that intelligence. And then all of a sudden, things start to shift and change without you directing, I want this to move, or I want, it's just whatever moves is supposed to move. Your body knows how to know what goes first, second, third, fourth, and all that. And I worked with a lady who had Crohn's disease, and it was horrible. We did this one exercise one time, and then all the symptoms of Crohn's disease left during the session. And that's what this is all about, is being able to change something so dramatic, but have it be easy.
Well, I'm sure people want that. So are we talking about basically like a one-on-one session that people would do? Or I heard you say there's like a process, the core awakening, like are there programs, are there group programs? Like what do you have?
Absolutely. So I have certification programs. I have live in person on the internet programs. And then of course I have, programs where you can, go at your own pace. You can do like a self-study. And I also work with people one-on-one. So I do all of that. Okay.
Tell us again where the best place to find you is.
beingquantum.com.
Excellent. And I know you have a book, right? Don't you have a book? Or it's coming?
I do. It's called The Ultimate Answer is Inside, with the foreword by world-renowned scientist and best-selling author Bruce Lipton.
Okay, where can we get the book?
Well, you can get the book right now on Amazon, and soon in physical form, because on Amazon we have the version where you get it, the Kindle. That's it. We have the Kindle version, but we do have the very soon we do have the actual hardcover and softcover books available.
Okay. Well, all of the links will be in the show notes. If you're here on YouTube, it's underneath this video. If you're on the podcast, it's in the show notes, and you can grab the book and you can check out Joshua's website, learn more, sign up for something. And I hope that you'll all take away 2 things. 1, there is hope. And 2, you have everything you need at your fingertips. It's just about connecting to it, right? This isn't about getting energy from somebody else. This is about you accessing the energy you already have available to you from yourself, your higher being, source energy, and it's already there. So thank you so much for coming on the show, Joshua.
Thank you so much. This was a blast, and I really appreciate you. This is awesome.